goals. Let's all welcome her with a virtual round of applause.
Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here today. I think this is such an amazing event that we're having, and I'm so honored and I'm so blessed to be a part of it. So I'm hoping that I can impart a little bit of wisdom with you today. So without further ado, I will share my screen. Okay, can you give me a thumbs up if you can see my screen, my presentation? Yeah. Okay. So today we're going to be talking about virtual political and civic engagements of Gen Z. So essentially this means social media and politics through the lens of the youth. This is what we're going to be going through today. So we're going to be going through the what, where, why, when, and how. So we will start with what are the virtual, political, and civic discussions that the youth is engaging in today. Then we will be going through where are these engagements happening online. Then why would the youth be encouraged and discouraged to discuss these things online? Then we will ask ourselves, when is it appropriate to have these discussions online? And finally, we'll finish with how we can properly practice and encourage political and civic discussions and actually translate those into action. So before I begin, I just wanted to get a little bit of a survey from you guys. So please share with me 1 to 2 words on how you would describe the youth in the Philippines. Let me know in the chat. I just want to kind of gauge. Let me know in the chat or in the comments if you're joining us through Facebook Live. I just want to kind of gauge what you. Wow, I love it. Modern, woke, open-minded, powerful, vibrant and active, curious, vocal, informed, critical, sensitive. Yeah, we can be. Silent but not blind, future, open-minded. Yes, yes, love it. Super love it. Future, yes, future, very important. We are the future. So thank you everyone for sharing. I definitely agree with everything that you said. Like, we can be very open-minded, we can be very vocal, but sometimes we can also be a little bit sensitive to what's out there online. So hopefully we can kind of help fix that practice through this talk today. So first, we shall start with what are the virtual, political, and civic discussions that the youth is engaging with today. So first, I'm going to share with you some statistics on social media, if you don't mind. So there are 4.48 billion social media users worldwide and 7.91 million users in the Philippines alone. The Philippines has an average of 4 hours and 15 minutes usage of social media a day. So that's the largest actually in the world. We have the largest average of hours on social media per day. And then say 80% of social media users actually use social media to help them make a decision, which is very, very interesting. And finally, 64.5% of the Philippine population aged 18 and above are actually on social media. So that's a huge number again. So Gen Z is a huge part of social media. So social media, well, media in general is powerful, both the old and the new. For example, the EDSA revolution and all its turning points became a major media event, from the live broadcast of the battle to the abrupt cut-off of Marcos's presidential speech. Some actually describe EDSA as the first successful revolution waged through the electronic media. But the main difference now is the old media was controlled and the new media is not. This is without question a double-edged sword, which I'll discuss more later. So the new media encourages personal interaction and the free flow of opinions. So government officials now have a direct line to the Filipino people through social media. And it has grown to a point where politicians and candidates actually have their own social media teams. And what has this led to? Well, the youth have transformed digital media into a microcosm of what they think the Philippines should and shouldn't be. So all these discussions, you can already see the opinions of all these people through the internet. Because we, as the youth, we want to feel a part of our democracy. We want to have a voice. So through social media platforms, the youth can acquire social resources such as political information, social services, or access to political officials and institutions. And as the most active online users, we can make use of these social resources to engage better in the society. So the youth in the Philippines have been very active in informal forms of political participation, such as student and street activism, volunteerism, and social media campaigns especially. This is because we can easily share anything with a click of a button. So it's so easy for us to just, be a part of the conversation just with one click of a button. So the next question is, where are these engagements actually happening online? So these engagements started primarily with Facebook and Twitter. So people started incorporating ads and paid accounts to push political propaganda, which is now actually being called into question. So now it also includes YouTube and TikTok. So I'm sure you've seen your favorite politicians on TikTok. I think Vico Soto is there now, and a lot of politicians are now on TikTok also. So this unmoderated and unfiltered content called social media platforms themselves to question their responsibility in the spread of fake news. So people are actually going to the source themselves, going to Facebook, going to Twitter, going to YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, etc., and asking them to take more responsibility on the spread of fake news. So first, we'll start talking about Facebook. So Facebook has long struggled to fight disinformation on its platform. It even as it partnered with independent third-party fact-checking organizations, including Rappler and Vera Files in the Philippines. A former Facebook executive actually called the country patient zero in the global war of disinformation. So that's how big this issue is in the Philippines. As for Twitter, Twitter does not have third-party fact-checking partnerships, but it has a prompt that asks users to read the story first before retweeting. Now, TikTok is growing so much during quarantine. It's the 6th most used social media platform and growing in the country, and has increasingly become an avenue for disinformation. So still, fake news continues to spread, and information that has been rejected on other platforms are still up on TikTok. And many influencers and users have already begun promoting potential candidates, with some even spreading misleading and wrong information. So when it comes to YouTube, their policies on misinformation are actually very inconsistent. So they have policies against election and COVID-19 related misinformation, but their community guidelines don't explicitly prohibit spreading falsehood. But for example, in countries like Brazil, India, and the US, users can see panels that carry relevant fact-checking articles while viewing a misleading or false video, but this feature, unfortunately, is not yet available in the Philippines. So why would the youth, I still consider myself youth, I think, why would we be encouraged and discouraged to discuss these things online? So first, we'll start with encouraged. So one of the central roles of social media is its ability to foster community in political engagements, which has heightened appreciation for democracy. So As the oldest democracy in Southeast Asia, this can be something that we can take for granted, but these open discussions now that we are having are helping us to bring that appreciation back. So DMs, comments, and live streams provide the opportunities for our voices to truly be heard. So it's never been easier to reach, government offices, government officials. So we are actually encouraged to, ask questions, form discussions, and really let our voices be heard. It's a place where people can learn and have open discussions. So the internet is such an incredible place that gives us the opportunity to learn about things from the comfort of our own homes. And it's not just from authorities, but also from our fellow citizens. So this is something that we have to take advantage of. Now we will move on to the discouraged. So this was the double-edged sword that I was talking about earlier. The discussions can easily evolve into an us versus them mentality. So if you factor in the anonymity the internet affords, it's really not surprising that the internet and the interaction in social media can turn into bitter and unfiltered arguments really quickly. So we always have to keep in mind that at the end of the day, our objective is to create better lives for the Filipino people. We're all Filipinos. We all want better lives for each other. So we have to remember that that's our objective. And it's not me versus you, this side for this versus this side. We're all one people. So negative campaigning, fake news, and other modes of disinformation on the web are preventing people from having an honest deliberation of urgent issues that impact everyone. So again, everything is shareable with a click of a button. So we have to always be vigilant when we see things like this online. We have to always be careful. And finally, honestly, lies travel faster than the truth. So despite all the efforts of these social media platforms to prevent the spread of fake news, it's inevitable that people are going to instantly see things when they're shared online. So if you see something, say something, report them on the platform and try to help stop that conversation. So when is it actually appropriate to have these discussions online? So make sure you check all these marks. One, if the information you're sharing is either credible and from a credible source or an opinion and clearly stated as such. So obviously it's super, super important to triple check our sources. Even me, in my slides, I put all my sources because I want people to know that this is actually credible, reliable information or an opinion and clearly stated as such. It can be so easy to take things personally. So you have to really state that, this is my opinion, I don't disrespect other people's opinions, but this is my perspective on it. And there you go. Next, if the person you're having a discussion with is actually willing to hear you out. So there's no use in having a one-sided conversation. If you can see that the person isn't actually willing to hear out your perspective, and at the same time, if you feel like, it's starting to get personal and you're also not trying to hear out their perspective. So make sure you try to detach, all emotions from this and just, have a healthy discussion. Of course, if it's in no way bashing, bullying, or meaningless negativity. We need less negativity in this world. There's so much negativity right now with everything that's going on. So, try as much as possible to, when you're sharing something, make it positive, make it, some sorts of light for the world. And finally, if you think what you're sharing would be valuable to other people, very, very, very important. If you're sharing something for the sake of sharing, or if you're posting for the sake of posting, do not do that. It has to be information that you think is worth knowing about. You think other people will benefit from the information, will benefit from the information that you're about to share. So how can we properly practice and encourage political and civic discussions and actually translate them into action? So American journalist Celeste Headley offers 4 smart ways to discuss politics productively and peacefully. So we are going to be going through those right now. So number 1, don't try to educate anyone. Like, don't start the conversation intending to prove someone wrong. Like, sorry, that's what it means. Not to, like, your objective shouldn't be to prove someone wrong. It has to be, it's hard to change people's minds. I mean, everyone knows that it's hard to change people's minds. So you can't force them to. So if that's your goal, then you will be disappointed and you'll also annoy the person that you're speaking to. So you have to make sure that you're really trying to spread information that's good for everyone as a whole and not just for one individual person. It's not, spreading information isn't about trying to prove one individual wrong, but trying to educate the Filipino people as a whole. So next, don't prejudge. So you have to listen to people with an open mind. So if someone likes a candidate that you hate, it doesn't mean that you should discount every single thing that they say, or think that you won't possibly find a common ground. It's all about empathy. You have to have the ability to understand why someone believes what they do. You have to put their experiences into account, put their perspective into account. Because if you dehumanize another person, it's very, very difficult to converse with them. The purpose of listening is not to endorse, but to understand. So you have to really listen to what they're saying and create a conversation based on that. It shouldn't be a one-sided conversation. So next, you have to show respect. Respect is much more important than tolerance, honestly. To respect another person is to refrain from calling them names, discounting their ideas, or using frequent interruptions to talk over them. Showing respect means you accept the other person has made choices for what they think are good reasons. This is very important, what they think are good reasons, and you grant them the right to express their opinions. The vast majority of people believe that what they are doing, that they are actually doing the best that they can. The vast majority of people think that what their perspective is the right perspective. So really try to practice seeing people who you disagree with as, people who are trying to achieve a positive result, people who are also trying to better our country, better our society, and really just, respect their opinion, respect their side of the story. And again, don't try to just prove them wrong. And finally, stick it out. So when a conversation becomes awkward or difficult, try your best to work through it. Don't crack a joke or change the subject, just work through the awkwardness. Keep going through the fog because the light is bright on the other side. The most important conversations are those that people are the most passionate about. So those that people are the most emotional about, and they are messy and they can be frustrating and even uncomfortable, but they're also often worth it, and they are necessary if we are to find common ground and begin to solve some of the serious problems facing our society. So how can we actually put these into action? I feel like these go without saying, but it's also important to always remind ourselves of these things because they're super, super important. They're super, super valuable. So first, do your research and really get to know each candidate. It's very easy to just go with the easy vote, go with the vote that you think everyone is going for, or maybe even going with the vote that your parents are going for, going with the vote that your barkada is going for. But it's super important to stay aware, do your research, and get to know them like, they're your best friend and you want to get to know them as much as possible without judgment. So do your research. We have so many resources available to us online. You know, some people even come up with like those Excel sheets with all the platforms of the particular candidate, and it's so easy to find that online. So make sure to really get to know every single person that you're about to, you know, put into office, single person that you may or may not vote for. Next, don't be afraid to start the conversation. And it's super important because some people can be oblivious to what's happening. Some people can be, you know, uninformed or misinformed, and you have to be able to spread that information that you think is vital for other people to know. So don't be afraid to start the conversation. But again, you know, if the people that you're talking to might not seem very open-minded, then don't be afraid to end that conversation also. But don't be afraid to just start it. Find political causes you care about and advocate for that. You know, if there are particular issues that you feel very strongly about, then talk about it. You know, do your research about it. Find things that you can do about it. Volunteer, donate. Just do whatever you can to be as active as a citizen as you can. And like I mentioned, volunteer with political campaigns that you believe in. You know, after you do your research, after you found your causes that you actually believe in, that's when you can actually take action and maybe volunteer for a campaign, volunteer for a candidate. You know, it's up to us. We are, like someone said earlier, that the youth is the future. We are the future. So it's up to us to really take action and be a part of the conversation, be a part of not just the conversation actually, but be a part of the action. And finally, obviously, and the most important, vote and encourage others to do so. So this is all about voter education, to encourage people to register to vote. So obviously, if you're not registered yet, you have to register now because every single vote counts. And you know, if you have friends that aren't registered to vote, then encourage them to register also. You know, I know some people who, you know, sometimes they can be like, you know, I don't want to register to vote because I really don't think it'll make a difference. No, like there are a number of people who have told me that. And, you know, if you put that number together, that's a really big thing because every single vote counts. So make sure that you register to vote and make sure that you start the conversation to encourage other people to do the same. So yeah, that's it for me. If you want to reach out to me or if you have any questions, you can follow me on Instagram or scan at social media Soph or scan the QR code. Follow me on TikTok at social media Soph or scan the QR code again. Or check out my website, socialmediasoph.com, or again, scan the QR code. Or if you want to reach out to me personally, you can also send me an email at spark@socialmediasoph.com. So thank you very much. Thank you again to all the organizers. Thank you to all the hosts and participants for having me here today.
Thank you so much, Miss Sophia. I have learned a lot and I can't mention all, but I agree with you that all social media outlets are gradually growing in terms of information and sometimes it can be false too. And with 4.48 billion active users, let's use our literacy online to be better citizens offline. And when it comes to politics, having views is normal. It's very normal. But if you have an opinion, I think it is best that you keep it to yourself. Just communicate with people, share your thoughts and what you think about this and you think about that, but never shove what you believe into someone else's throats.
Yes, I do agree with you, Zeleny. And also, I would like to share my key takeaway from Miss Sophia's talk. I can say that, you know, if you think that what you're sharing to people is valuable for them. I do agree with Miss Sophia with that a lot, because I can see how conversations on social media just tend to be so personal, and it's like all of them are just attacking the person who was just sharing their personal opinion by the other person's another opinion. So it's like a very unhealthy discussion, when in fact everyone should be very open-minded with other people's opinion, because for certain that opinion is rooted from something, like from their experiences, from their outlook. So instead of attacking that person, I think it would be beneficial to everyone if they just share what they think as well. And then if the other person or the other on social media, if the other person doesn't agree, then let's just accept the way it is. And like what Miss Sophia said, let's not try to educate or to force our perspective into them, right? So in connection to this, I would like to know, Zeleny, what are the types of engagements that you do online or offline, if you have any?
Thank you so much for the wonderful question, Maridan.
This universe.
But I like to keep myself informed through social media, Maridan, by keeping myself posted regarding the different kinds of engaging use. And I also like to make sure that these are very reliable sources, because as members of the youth, I believe that we should be promoting what is right, and especially in leading older generations, right? They're in social media as well, and sometimes you just share articles online, and it's not real, it's fake. And imagine being canceled in this generation, Tipay. Oh my God, Tipay, I can't. And it is very hard to get away from these kinds of articles, right? How about you, Maridan? What types of engagements do you do online or offline?
To be honest, recently I haven't been a social media person. Like it started last year, I think, the beginning of the pandemic, when I was stuck here at home during the quarantine, during the ECQ. Well, because I realized that sharing my thoughts online wasn't helpful to me personally, and at the same time I do believe that I can contribute even more if I share conversations with people who are willing to listen to me. And I'm so happy because Miss Sophia mentioned that earlier in her talk, because that's what I do nowadays. I share insights with my friends, and I'm really happy that all of them are open-minded enough to share their thoughts about the current societal issues, even political ones. And at the same time, I just try to share my opinion to my family, to my parents. That's the scariest part nowadays, when you try to share your opinion as a Gen Z to older millennials, or the boomers, as we all know. Like, it's the scariest part nowadays, but I try to open their minds by sharing my opinion, and without, of course, forcing them to accept what I think. So I think that's my form of engagement. And opening up a conversation for me is already a form of partaking in democracy. It's just really awesome. It feels good to be a part of something so important and so relevant nowadays.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's it. So how about you, Miss Sophia? Do you want to share to us how you engage, how you try to share your opinions online to
Sure.
your social media fans?
Sure. Well, fans.
Yeah, fans.
So yeah, I like to volunteer for political campaigns that I believe in. So I do like to help out when in the social media and with sharing and stuff like that. And again, I like to always triple check my information. Like, I think this is the talk that I've worked on the longest, like because I really wanted to make sure that all the information that I was sharing, was reliable and was actually accurate. And I think that I also do like to have discussions with not just my friends, but also my family about certain issues. My parents are they're open to discussing it with me. Actually, sometimes I'm the one who makes it personal, na I get emotional, but then sometimes I have to pull myself back and be like, okay, I'm getting emotional about it. They're willing to listen to me, so I have to have this productive conversation with my parents, my family, my friends. So yeah, I think the important thing is to just really be aware. Just keep yourself aware as possible. And if you have the time to do your part, well, not just if you have the time, but you should make time to do your part
That's
as
right.
much as possible. Yeah.
Yes, thank you so much, Miss Sophia. I do agree with that. So, guys, take time, find time to be a part of the conversation and be a part of the action. Thank you again, Miss Sophia, for your
Thank
talk.
you.